Far beyond the edges of the known kingdoms, where maps faded into parchment emptiness and compasses spun without direction, there stood a castle swallowed by legend and silence. A place so steeped in fear that its very name stirred unease, Evernight Hollow. Towering above the sea of dead forests and forgotten paths, the castle loomed like a stone phantasm against a sky perpetually cloaked in gray. No traveler dared near it. No torchlight had ever pierced its iron-bound gates in over 3 centuries. It was a ghost of a bygone world. And yet, it watched. Generations had passed in the nearby villages, nestled safely in the emerald valleys. Below, where the tales of Evernight Hollow drifted like smoke in the taverns and over fireplaces, to the elders the castle was a warning. To the young, a bedtime threat. They spoke of its windows that glowed at night, though no soul lived within. Of the strange cries that echoed through the trees after sunset, of a shadow that circled the land like a sentry made of mist. It was cursed, they said, haunted. But the truth, as always, was far more terrible and far more forgotten. For once. Long ago, Evernight Hollow had not been a place of fear, but a bastion of power and beauty. It rose from the mountain rock like a crown forged by gods, carved with runes from the ancient tongue, guarded by arcane wards, and blessed with a heart of living magic. It was ruled by House Elowen, a noble bloodline chosen not by conquest, but by the will of the land itself. The Elowens were more than kings and queens. They were seers, dream shapers, and keepers of the balance. The world beneath them flourished. Time bent gently around them. The elements whispered to them Dob until the vanishing night. No scholar could say what truly happened. Only that the stars vanished from the sky, the moon wept blood, and the earth trembled with a scream that did not end until the dawn. That night something broke. Lightning split the main tower. Fire raged through the west wing, yet no smoke rose. When villagers came to the outer walls the next morning, they found the gates sealed, the air charged with something they could not name. And no one ever saw the Elowens again. Since then, Evernight Hollow was a place of stillness. Time forgot. Nature grew wild around it, but never within. Storms raged around it, but never over it. Even the birds refused to fly too close, as if something in the stone itself repelled life. Many claimed to see shadows on the ramparts or hear music from within, but all who ventured near returned changed, or never returned at all. And so the world moved on. Kingdoms rose and fell, wars ignited and were buried, yet Evernight Hollow stood eternal, untouched, and waiting until the storm came, on the eve of the winter solstice. As thunder cracked the sky and the moon was veiled in pale mist, a lone figure appeared upon the forgotten road, a woman cloaked in midnight blue, her steps steady despite the wind. She walked with a purpose that defied the years, guided by something unseen. Her name was Seraphine Elowen, the last blood of a shattered dynasty, hidden since birth, raised by shadows, taught the forgotten arts of her ancestors. The castle had called to her in dreams not her own. Now she had come to answer. The villagers watched from their shuttered windows, their breath catching as the stranger passed, her eyes glowing faintly silver beneath her hood. No one dared speak, no one tried to stop her. And when she vanished into the darkling wood, they did not follow. It was said later that the wind died the moment she crossed the border of the forest, and the trees leaned in to whisper her name. Through tangled roots and ancient stones she walked, until she reached the gates of Evernight Hollow, gates forged of blackened iron and etched with runes that pulsed faintly as she approached. She reached out a hand, and with a low groan, the gates opened on their own, as if sighing in relief. The castle had been asleep, but now it stirred. Inside, the air was thick with memory. Dust hung in the beams of her lantern like frozen rain. Cobwebs glistened like silver thread across arched doorways. Yet the castle was not decayed, it was preserved. Every tapestry, every blade on the wall, every goblet on the long abandoned feast table, all lay where they had been left the night the Elowens vanished, frozen in time. Waiting for her as Seraphine stepped through the grand hall, the floor creaked beneath her boots, not with decay, but recognition. Her very presence echoed through the stone. The torches along the wall flickered, then one by one ignited, casting dancing shadows across portraits of long-dead ancestors. Their painted eyes followed her. In the throne room, the high-backed seat of her bloodline stood empty, wrapped in moonlight through the shattered stained glass window. And in the silence, she heard the castle breathe. She walked forward slowly, placing her hand upon the cold marble throne. A shiver ran through her bones, and then the whispers began. They came from the walls, the tapestries, the floor itself. Echoes of voices, soft and hollow, voices of the dead, the lost, the bound. They did not cry out in fear, but in recognition. "Elowen," they murmured. "Elowen has returned." She knew then what she must do. Seraphine knelt in the center of the throne room and drew from her satchel a crystal shard, the last fragment of the heart of the hollow, an ancient relic once hidden in secret. As she held it aloft, the room dimmed, and the shard pulsed with radiant blue light. Energy surged through the stone walls. Dust lifted. The very castle shuddered. And then the ghosts came. They rose from the floor, not in terror, but in grace. Nobles in faded garments, knights in spectral armor, children, maids, scholars, all those who had once called the castle home. Their eyes met hers with recognition, pain, and longing. She stood. "By my blood," she said, voice steady, "as thunder, I claim what was forsaken. By my name, I awaken the hollow." The power that erupted shook the mountains. Light streamed from the tower tops. Magic, long dormant, bled through the air. The castle breathed in deeply and exhaled a pulse of life that spread for miles, but not all within the hollow rejoiced. Far below, beneath the crypts and the hidden catacombs, in a sealed vault buried beneath runes older than the language of men, a slumbering darkness stirred. It was not human. It had never been. It had no name the living could speak, but it had once worn a crown. The shadowbound king, he had been trapped by the first Queen Elowen, sealed away when he tried to merge the light of the hollow with the void beyond the stars. His magic had poisoned the land. His breath had withered entire forests. His name had been struck from every scroll in stone, for even memory could give him power. But now, the blood of Elowen had returned, and the seal that had held him cracked in the deepest dark. His eyes opened, twin pits of endless night. The mysterious castle had awakened, but so had he, and the true story was just beginning.